So, I really did not expect to be talking about a documentary on my horror channel, but here we are, I guess. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justice, and today we are going to be talking about the 2015 film The Nightmare, which follows a group of people who are all plagued by sleep paralysis. They all recount their stories and their struggles with the mysterious disorder. First and foremost, I want to go into this review talking about this movie and give a little bit of hindsight on my views of everybody in this damn documentary. I am very much a skeptic. I'm really not religious. I don't really believe in ghosts. Like, you got me there on aliens, I guess. Like, I do think there's something else out there. Do I think what the tinfoil hat wearing folk think they are? Probably not. And this documentary very much just checks all those boxes for me, for like all these like very much out there thinking, I guess. And I've had sleep paralysis before. Some of the stuff that they said in this documentary I thought was very accurate. It was stuff that I personally have experienced. And like, my sleep paralysis was never as bad as anybody in this documentary, so maybe my opinion is a little bit biased, but a lot of the people that were in this film, more or less, just felt like that person that like everybody has known at some point in their life where they like to tell tall tales, and they just keep going and going with the story, expecting you to believe every word they're saying for some reason, even though it's some of the most batshit stuff you've ever heard, and you're just kind of sitting there like, this is all bullshit. And I think that's one of the more infuriating things to me about this documentary. I think it's a really cool idea to interview people with sleep paralysis to talk about it. I do think that could be a really fun idea for a horror film, in fact. In fact, it just lends itself to horror. And I don't even mind that they like would have done like a creepier edge to a documentary, but first and foremost, this is less of a documentary and more of just a horror movie. I've never seen a documentary that has like such like blatant and like cheesy jump scares thrown throughout. And furthermore, too, another thing that kind of grinded my gears a little bit with it is it's really cool to hear all these people recounting their stories to a point, but you never actually get like any scientists or like medical professionals coming in and giving their opinions on sleep paralysis. You're essentially just following all these different narrators, essentially, and it's up to you to decide whether or not they're reliable or unreliable. But with the way this movie plays out, they very much want you to believe that all of these people are extremely reliable witnesses. I can't buy into it. I mean, you have people that are apparently getting like sexually assaulted by their sleep paralysis demon. You have another person that, instead of saying it's a scientific phenomena, that sleep paralysis is apparently like an STD, essentially, and it's just spreading to all these different people. So like, I think that maybe he shouldn't have watched It Follows. That's really all I got out of that. And then you obviously have all these other people who think it's like demonic forces and such, and it just, a lot of it gets really far-fetched. And halfway through this documentary, I found myself thinking of another documentary that kind of falls in a similar pitfall. And if you guys haven't seen that documentary, it's Room 237. It is about like all the conspiracy theories in The Shining, and it's a very batshit documentary with some very batshit freaking takes. But of course, that documentary and this one, in fact, are actually directed by the same person, I found out after watching this movie. So I guess it tracks for why I thought of that other documentary, I suppose. I will admit, though, that some of it did ring true. There was a guy at the beginning of the documentary that I very much was able to relate to initially, before everything gets like all like freaking nutty. But he talks about how he was in bed with his girlfriend one time when he had an episode, and he remembered waking up and being completely frozen, could not move, and he just felt this like sense of dread washing over his body, and he tries screaming out for his girlfriend, only for her to not be able to hear him, and him not to be able to even get the words out. That is something that I have experienced before with sleep paralysis. It was like a few years ago now that episode even happened. I was in bed with my boyfriend, and I remember waking up in the night, and I could not move. My body was completely frozen, and I tried calling for him, and I just couldn't get anything out. And it's a really freaky feeling. So I thought they did a really good job of eliciting that feeling I had in that moment by the way they had the guy talk about it. And of course, there's also all these talks about shadow people and stuff in this documentary, and I will admit that they do a lot of these reenactments of the shadow people and such, and a lot of them, at least in the early part of the documentary, I thought worked really well. I thought that they were really freaky and creepy looking. And I know that shadow people are very much a phenomena that people have experienced through sleep paralysis and such. I have never personally seen a shadow person. I've had feelings of someone watching me. The closest I think I've ever gotten to seeing a shadow person is the very first time that I ever actually had sleep paralysis. I was, I don't know, 14 or 15, so this could be unreliable narration right here. I'll completely own that right now, because your memories change from when you were a kid. But I remember waking up and being completely frozen, and I don't know if you guys will understand this example I'm gonna give, but you know how in movies you see people who are invisible and you can see the outline of them on your screen still? That's what this was essentially. I saw a figure pressing down on my chest, it felt but all I could see was the outline of them. It was so long ago that I don't remember much else of it, but other than that, I've had senses of dread that someone has been watching me before. I remember one time that I woke up on my side and I was looking at a door, and I just convinced myself that for some reason that someone was gonna come waltzing in through that door and something bad was gonna happen, but I just kept staring at the door because for some reason in my brain I was if I'm watching, then maybe they won't come in. It was really weird, trippy thoughts, man. But do I think that this is demonic forces or some extraterrestrial or paranormal thing talking to me? No. I very much think that sleep paralysis is as simple as you want to make it. I think that fact is often way less interesting than fiction, and this documentary enjoyed reveling in the interesting aspects of fiction, essentially. I think that it's pretty cut and dry that sleep paralysis is just a medical thing and can easily be explained away by science. And I don't know all the ins and outs of sleep paralysis. I've never fully looked into it. In fact, it's not even something that I have struggled with a lot over the years. In fact, I think I've only ever had maybe 5 or 6 episodes altogether, and that's over the span of the last 10 years, and the last episode I had was 2 or 3 years ago, so I'm not a fountain of knowledge for this subject by any means. And if you are, drop a comment down below and tell me where I'm wrong on some of this stuff, and if you disagree, I would really love to hear someone else who has experienced it and maybe even experienced it more so than I have. I do think that it's just a thing where you're essentially just stuck in this half asleep, half awake state, so your body hasn't fully woken up, and you're still in your REM sleep, so of course you're gonna have weird thoughts, maybe even hallucinate some crazy shit because you still got those dream chemicals working through your brain, essentially. And furthermore too, from even what I saw in the documentary, they were talking about stress being a huge thing that causes sleep paralysis, and I have anxiety, man, don't we all? But I very much feel it tracks for me for why I ended up experiencing it the times that I did, because I feel it was more often than not in more higher stress points of my life. And like I said, I don't want to make all these people painted out to be just these big liars. I don't think even that all of them have exactly nefarious thoughts at mind. I just think that the documentary itself doesn't really do much to give you another side of the story. Really, there was only one person that they interviewed in this documentary that genuinely frustrated me, and I just did not believe his story because it was too far-fetched. I am a huge documentary lover, very simple man. Netflix comes out with a new documentary, I click, I watch. It's It's very simple. I do not like, though, those documentaries that are essentially trying to be scary horror films. Like, you know, the documentaries where they talk about, like, oh, there was a ghost in my house. Oh, a demon tried to break into my home. And they show, like, all the cheesy reenactments to, like, make you believe it's real. I don't believe any of it's real. So those documentaries just end up pissing me off because they're trying to convince you that it's real. And that's another thing that I could be swayed on if, like, I were to personally experience something like that. But, like, I've never seen no ghost. I've never seen no alien trying to walk into my room. So, like, therefore, like, I have nothing else. Like, I'm not going to be scared of something that I have never experienced before and put more thought into it than that. But this one guy in the documentary essentially tries to make it sound like some demon's coming after him, and it turns into him talking more about his dreams and less about sleep paralysis. And there's a lot of people that start talking about dreams and confusing dreams for what sleep paralysis is. I thought that was kind of comical, hearing all these nightmares and being like, huh, I don't think that has much to do with what we're trying to talk about here today, actually, you guys. Maybe reel it in. One of his encounters that he has is apparently this dude, like, pulls bitches, and he gets in bed with two girls, and he falls asleep in bed with these two girls, and then in the middle of the night, he ends up having sleep paralysis, and he wakes up to this demon over his chest telling him that, I'm gonna kill you. And of course, what brought him out of that slumber was one of the girls next to him wakes up screaming because she had envisioned a cat with red glowing eyes on her chest, and it was talking to him in some weird garbly goop and, like, language that she could not understand. It lost me completely there. I just started cackling because I was like, dude, like, check. Tell me other things that have definitely never ever happened. And then later on too, he has this, like, huge revelation that he brings up in the documentary, because you have all of our different people essentially talking about how sleep paralysis is a phenomenon that happens all over the world, that it's been recorded throughout all these different cultures. But the way that he says it just admittedly cracked me up. In typical American fashion, and this is coming from an American, he made it all about us and was just sitting there like, and it's so crazy because, like, this isn't a thing that just, like, plagues Americans, huh? Who knew? It's like, bro, we all knew. Like, sit down, you're not special. Stuff like that just very much had me laughing. There was really only one person in this documentary that talked about the phenomena that I actually believed, where she was saying that she is definitely more of a skeptic, kind of like me, and talks about how, like, there has to be, like, a reasonable explanation for it. But of course the documentary doesn't lend itself to hear her explain her thoughts more than the person who's saying that aliens are coming into his room, or a person that's saying that a demonic force is trying to attack them and take them over. She kind of gets thrown to the back burner because the skeptic takes away from this being a horror movie at the end of the day, because that's all this is trying to be, is a scary movie. So overall, this documentary was not my thing. I don't know if that's a hot take. No one's talked about it in years. And, like, I've heard of it, just never ended up watching it because I kind of figured it was going to be a documentary like it ended up being, where it was less documentary and just more of, like, schlocky BS, essentially. I just thought it was very repetitive and redundant throughout. I just thought that the stories just got kind of boring and meandering as it went along. So, like, again, very cool idea, but, like, execution, I think, was just terrible. When your entire movie is entirely based around unreliable narrators, then you're going to be getting a very messy bag, essentially. But you guys should really let me know what your thoughts were on it. Like I said a few minutes ago now, I would love to hear if, like, you've had sleep paralysis and you have a different perspective than I do about the whole thing. And you should tell me that in the comments down below, because I would love for someone to change my mind. Like I said, it's not like I am a fountain of knowledge on sleep paralysis. I've only experienced it a handful of times myself. If you do have, like, a lighter dose of sleep paralysis, like I did, essentially, what got me out of it was the very last time I had it, and this was a few years ago, I was able to wake up and I was able to process what was going on, and literally all I did was close my eyes and just started counting, and eventually I fell asleep, and I haven't had sleep paralysis since then, so I don't know if that's a cure-all, but it worked for me. But anyways, if you are new to the channel and you want more content in the future just like this, then I would love if you click that subscribe button. I cover everything and anything horror on this channel. But with that all out of the way, this has been Justice, and I really hope to catch you guys on the next one. Take care.